Appreciate you shedding light on Santa Cruz because that's huge. A lot of people, they get the wrong idea of it, and some people actually get the right idea because they actually take the time to, you know, walk around and maneuver around and see what's actually going on, and they're here for a couple of days, and you know, they get to see there's homeless people here and there, and it's just, Santa Cruz is just like any other city, you know what I mean, except Absolutely. It's smaller, and there's probably less poverty than maybe you see in Oakland or you see in Detroit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you really, you know, you just, like you say, you take the wrong turn and you might find it, you know.
Well, yeah, bro. I mean, I've seen people come here from other states thinking, you know, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Santa Cruz, nice, and they fucking disappear, bro. Yeah. And you see them a couple years later, dope fiend out. You know what I mean? And it's rough, man. You gotta be careful. You gotta watch your moves out here. You know what I mean? Because this place will swallow you up.
No doubt.
You know?
So how were you able to maneuver through all these obstacles growing up, you know?
First and foremost, God. You know, I always say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. For whatever reason, I've been protected my entire life. And I've always tried to put God first, you know, even if things were my fault. You know, so having that in my life has been a huge blessing, you know, because if you put God first, everything else kind of falls in line, right? If you believe in God or a higher power, it doesn't have to be God, you know what I mean? I've had people say, you know, pray to your homeboy that passed away. You know, pray to something. You have to have some kind of belief, some kind of spiritual path to keep going. You know, so that's been real big for me.
Nice. Yeah, man. Me as well. I don't really know what I believe in, but I do believe there is a higher power. And you know, on my early mornings to work and all that thing, you know what I mean? I kind of pray to somebody that I don't know, but you know, you gotta be able to, you know, how do you say it? You really like gotta give thanks to something higher than yourself, because there's a reason why you woke up that day. There's a reason why you're getting another opportunity today. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So. Give me a second. I fucked up. I gotta check my notes. I got so caught up into what you were talking about that it kind of threw me back into, like, because growing up in Santa Cruz, it kind of like threw me back, and I started thinking about all this stuff, and I was like, damn. That's
well, you know, the truth is though, is only Santa Cruz boys are really gonna know that, and feel that. You know what I mean? If even if you're from the Central Coast, but maybe you grew up in Watsonville and not in Santa Cruz, you're not gonna get the vibe completely, and see those patterns, you know what I mean? It's a motherfucker, bro.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was saying. That's why I got stuck right there, because I was like, man, what he's saying is real shit. But I'm over here thinking in my mind, like, yeah, you gotta be from Santa Cruz to really understand it, or you have to live here for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously the question was, how were you able to maneuver through all these obstacles and stuff like that? And on your way of maneuvering through all these obstacles and, you know, being part of the streets here and there, was there anything other than the streets that took you away from the streets, that had your mind on, you know, not just being an entrepreneur, but like, was there any hobbies like drawing, writing, sports, you know, detailing cars, or doing some kind of stuff that kind of got your mind and put you into a different kind of world within itself?
Hustling, bro.
Hustling.
You know, I was, of course it was part of the streets. But because I came from a lower middle class family, and I watched my mom struggle so much, you know what I mean? My mom was a huge part of who I am today. So we didn't have a car growing up. My mom would ride her bike to work. She would take a taxi up to wash our clothes. We didn't have a washer or dryer. I grew up in pretty much a one-bedroom little duplex with my mom, and you know, seeing that and taking on that lead, that example, that was a huge part of it. But also, I had to be creative in getting the things that I wanted, because growing up, I didn't get a new pair of shoes until there was holes in the bottom of these ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird how that carried over to who I am now, because I'll tell you what, B, right now I got a clean pair of shoes on, but I got 3 boxes in my closet right now that I probably had for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I can't get myself to go up there and have 5 different pairs of shoes open. I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
You know, so I think my mom was a huge example. I think finding creative ways to make money kept my mind focused on progressing and going forward, you know, and having that hustler mentality, you know, led me to opening my car audio shop, led me to having no fear about going from a car audio shop to jumping, I mean, like head first into cement, into this motel game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the podcast. I've never had, you know, I don't know anybody that has a podcast. I mean, I do now.
Yeah.
I didn't before. But I didn't know anybody doing this. I didn't have anybody to call, man. But again, coming from the School of Hard Knocks, you know, and being blessed to have the internet, you know what I mean? And being blessed to have, you know, the mind to pick up a book, which another thing is my mom gave me.
Yeah.
You know, I grow up, my mom's favorite thing to do, even to this day, is read, man. That woman is constantly reading. She's read more books than anybody I've met in my fucking life.
In the motherfucking library. More books in the library.
She'd read every one, bro. It would be the greatest time of her life.
Yeah.
You know, so I think having that example is what helped me maneuver and get to where I am now. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
And being blessed, again, with going through the trials and tribulations, not much else can hurt me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm going to get somebody on the podcast that I don't think is going to come on, and you know, I've been told no.
Yeah.
Fuck it, move on. You know what I mean?
Motherfuckers in the world that you know what I mean?
And you know,
somebody got a story.
You know, I've learned a lot of things from business too, man. And there's no love in business. There's no emotion in business. You know what I mean? And once you get wrapped up in that shit, which I have before, and these are the lessons that I've taken away, right? There's no love in business, bro. Street business, legal business, any business, no love in it.
Well, they say business before pleasure always for a reason, right?
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I feel like I've been blessed with many tools from the examples I've had, and from the positions that I've put the awkward, uncomfortable positions that I've put myself in, bro.
No doubt.
Those positions only make you stronger in the end.
No doubt, and it's being put in those positions that it kind of challenges you to actually soak up game like a sponge and actually open up your mind and break down that wall of pride, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, how did you find it awkward having to transition from a pusher to like legit moving? You know, because no.
It's the same rules. The same rules apply, and it actually made me better. If I didn't have those experiences, if I hadn't lost, you know, time and time again, you know, I wouldn't have been able to push through the situations with legitimate businesses. You know, again, School of Hard Knocks, man. You can sit in a classroom and a teacher can tell you their experiences and what they've learned all day, and that's great to memorize somebody else's trip, man. But if you're on your own trip, you feel it.
Yeah.
It's a feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where you develop, I always call it the spider sense, right? So listening to your gut is a real thing.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize that unless you're in the thick of it. You know what I'm saying? Again, with all the schooling that I've had, or not had, or whatever, you know what I mean? Without running the streets and without doing the things that I had done, I would never be where I'm at right now, ever. No way.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. And why do you feel that way though? Were you that deep into it, or was it just more of a like the way you were moving was kind of shitey at the time?
I think street hustling, there's different elements to it again, right? So you can walk into a business meeting and you know, more than likely, you're not gonna get stabbed or shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can walk into a street meeting And you can be by yourself, or you could be with your one dude, and there could be 5 other dudes in the room, and something might happen if tempers go wrong, right? So again, with the experiences that I've had, I can walk into these legitimate meetings and know that I'm safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
The worst that's gonna happen is I'm gonna throw out an idea and it's gonna be a no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And at that point, it's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Which again, there's no love in business.
Yeah.
So once you learn to tamper down your emotions, you really expand yourself, and it's a lot easier to move. You know, I actually, with this downtown thing, I did something that they asked me not to do more than once, and I still did it anyways. And they sent me a text message, and they said, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
But the way they said it, it hurt my feelings. I got emotional about it. And I had to sit there for 5 minutes and think, this is business.
Yeah.
They asked me not to do it. Don't be a little bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to let go of that. Because what you're doing with this situation is going to serve a higher purpose later on than what my emotions are right at this second.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you gotta be able to see the bigger picture. It's like being in the streets for some people. You know what I mean? They find the right plug and they just wanna, you know, oh, I need to get a quick, you know what I mean, some money real quick, but they end up robbing the wrong plug. Who's gonna be serving them? You know?
Well, and that's another thing, right? You find all these little rules that apply to everyday life, man.
Yeah.
You can't just burn bridges. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Whether you have a bad experience with somebody or not, you know, I had somebody on a couple of episodes ago, and they're from Santa Cruz as well, and something they said that I thought was real fascinating, because I've been in the situation, was, you know, when you're a teenager, you might be funking with one side of town or one crew or one whatever, but 10, 15 years later, you may be sitting with them at the elementary school because your kids are having a Christmas sing-along or some shit.
Yeah.
And you may have to look over at them and be, oh, hey, yeah, I tried to stab you that one time, but we're good now, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was very thoughtful, and I thought it was very, I thought it applied perfectly to our home.
Yeah.
You know, because again, like you stated, it's small enough to where you'll know everybody, but it's also big enough to where you can stay out the way and not see people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But one day, sooner or later, that situation is going to come up again, and hopefully you played your cards the best of your abilities.
Yeah. Every dog has his day.
That's right.
Every dog has his day. So, you know, being in the streets, like I said, or like we've been talking about, did you at some point ever have a 9 to 5 or a little part-time job on the side? Always.
100.
Right?
100. Yeah, man. So back in the early 2000s, I was strung out on meth like a motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
I still worked 2 jobs. So I was living up in Paradise, California, and it's a retirement community.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of old folks up there. You know, it was built as a retirement community originally. That was the goal. So there's a lot of old folks homes up there, right? So we got up there, and I was looking for a job, and I realized what was happening. And I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm not a certified nurse's assistant. I'm not really into doing that. But, you know, they had a kitchen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I got a couple of dishwasher jobs. And I was doing my thing too. So yeah, I mean, look, man, again, I'm coming from a single parent home where my mom did, she was 110 every day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, my mom wasn't hustling or anything, but man, she was hustling at that job, you know what I mean? And that set the example for me. Okay, well, the hustling is the icing on the cake. The hustling is putting me in a position that I wouldn't be able to have if I was just working this job or two.
Yeah.
So I always looked at it like that, you know, it's the icing on the cake, you know, and you got to respect that too, you know what I mean? And you know, I mean, for better or for worse, I got to get the little things that I wanted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they're little trinkets or whatever. And I think having that little bit of money that long ago taught me what money is now. You know, and I always say this, forgive me for anybody that listens to the podcast because I say this on a regular basis, but money's a tool, bro. Money's a tool.
No doubt.
And I always tell people, you can dig a hole with a shovel, or without a shovel, you can dig a hole, but it's a lot easier to dig it with the shovel. And that's the way you got to look at money, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to know what you're willing to sacrifice for that money,
Yeah.
and you know what's more valuable. You know, and what I've learned over time, as I've gotten older and I've matured, is that the most valuable asset we as human beings have is time.
So owning a Mas Audio, which was basically you were painting stereos in the cars and stuff like that, and you closed down, obviously. I'm not sure for what reasons. Is there anything you could elaborate on that?
Why I closed it down?
Yeah.
Because I was going into the motel.
Okay.
So I'm very, well, I try to be methodical about the moves I make. So, you know, one of the reasons I smoke marijuana, cannabis, weed, green, is because it slows down what's going on in here.
Gotcha,
my wheels are constantly moving. And I believe that may be a quality of an entrepreneur. I don't fucking know, you know what I mean? But it slows it down a little bit for me. And, you know, I closed the car stereo shop down because I was moving on to the motel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The one scary thing about leaving the motel
Yeah.
is I didn't have the next move.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very blessed because I was cruising through the podcast, right?
Yeah.
But I had this one interview that really changed things for me, and it was with a professional surfer and his coach. Shout out to Zoltan and Gunnar Diamond. We were doing the interview, and after the interviews, you know, people are comfortable with you. You know, and you know, we usually go in the back and light up or whatever and talk a little bit more. But I was telling Zoltan and Gunnar, man, you know, I don't have the motel anymore. I don't know what my next step is. I'm kind of freaking out. These motherfuckers, oh man, Nativo, we lived our whole lives like that, bro.
Yeah.
And look, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And it just, boom. And again, that's why mindset is so important, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you let these voices get the best of you, man, you're your biggest critic. You're your biggest enemy. You know, people can set thoughts into motion in your mind, but in the end, ultimately, you're in control of those thoughts. So you have to learn how to filter them out, and they're nonstop. They come all the time.
Mm.
And one tool that I've learned, one trick I've learned for myself is when I start freaking out and oh my God, the bills and oh my God, this or that or whatever's going on in my life, one thing that I've learned to do is stop. I tell myself, stop. Is everything okay right now? Is everything okay right now? And 99.9% of the time, it is. So you gotta learn how to tame these. And you know, that's why I'm very thankful that I've progressed the way I have, from the streets to legitimate business, car audio. I've worked for every bro. I've worked for Target. I worked for Lucky Grocery Stores. I worked for Best Buy. I've worked for Costco. I worked for every major corporation you can think of, bro. And I've used them all as a stepping stone and a learning lesson for my next venture. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, nothing happened with the car audio shop. Simply, you know, there's a couple things that happened. I was getting tired of it. It's definitely a young man's game, you know, because now I find myself on a corner like, turn it down, you know what I'm saying? Which is funny, right? It's funny because that was my life. But no, you know, I was getting a little tired of it, and we had an opportunity to move on to something else, and I was ready for my new chapter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which was paid the cost, right?
No, which was the motel.
Oh yeah, motel.
And then from the motel, you know, what I learned from there, what's gotten me this, is we had a little breakfast in the morning. And from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. is when the breakfast was. So every morning I'd go stand out there with everybody coming through, and I'd have great conversations with some people, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think, you know, coming from the street and having that, you know, that watchful eye,
Yeah.
watching the body language, seeing the movement in your eyes, hearing the tones in your voice, that really helped me. But the motel perfected it, and it brought me here.
So, can you just explain a little bit about what Pay the Cost is about before we wrap this thing up?
Absolutely.
Where
Yeah,
people
yeah.
can find it?
Yeah. So Pay the Cost is available on any platform, man. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can hear a podcast, you can hear Pay the Cost. Pay the Cost is centered around the Central Coast, people from it. We have surfers, we have artists, we have hip hop artists, we have music producers, I have city council members, I had the police chief of Santa Cruz. You name it, I got it.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, man. And it's mainly highlighting our home,
Yeah.
the Central Coast.
No doubt, man. So if you guys have a chance to tap in with Pay the Cost on Spotify or all those platforms he just named, go ahead and do so. Learn a little bit about the culture of Santa Cruz. And not only that, learn about people's lives. And, you know, you never know, you might be able to relate to them. But once again, I want to say thank you for having us here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, bro.
Man, I appreciate it. We're going to have to tap in one more time again at some point and, you know, get busy. So there you guys have it. Another episode of Urban Moguls will be right here with Pay the Cost and Nativo Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Y'all stay blessed.